What's up? What's up? So the schedule just got released for the NFL, and I'm gonna go over the Detroit Lions and see what game they could win. Now, keep in mind, when the schedule is made, it's based off of what you did last year and what you're projected to do this year. So the Lions' schedule should be, relatively speaking, a little bit weaker. Already looking at it, they play Jacksonville, they play Washington, right? So I legitimately, looking at this schedule here, we're going to configure a way for the Lions to get 10 wins. Because I think that the Lions are going to be one of the most underrated teams in the league. Here's why. Here's three things before we get into the schedule. Number one, Matthew Stafford. There's this weird narrative with Matthew Stafford, and I shouldn't laugh or say weird because I'm a part of it, where it's like, oh, he's a top 10 quarterback, 5,000 yards, just give him a good receiver, and then it's like, he's garbage, he's worse than some backups, like, I wish we had Colin Kaepernick, and there's no, like, in between, right, with Matthew Stafford. I think he does kind of fall there in between, and then you look at the drafting of DeAndre Swift, okay, so now it's going to be a 1-2 punch. Now you have Swift and Kerryon Johnson. Both can run between the tackles. Both can catch outside. Both can do both. Both can do a lot of things. Not one's like, oh, he's a power back. Oh, he's a... No, I mean, obviously, one's going to fit one role better than the other, I think. But that's going to be a huge thing. And then number three, the NFC North got worse. The Packers didn't assess any problems that they had in the NFL draft or in NFL free agency. The Bears didn't assess any problems that they have. They have Nick Foles at quarterback, who is average at best. And the Vikings, here's the thing. When you replace somebody, and the Lions did this too, when you replace somebody who was all pro talent or better in the NFL draft, it kind of works, but it really kind of doesn't. Especially where the Vikings were. Now, the Lions drafted number 3 overall. So, you could see a number 3 overall draft pick making an immediate impact. You can't see the Vikings when they drafted like 17th, 18th. You can't see them, and they didn't even take a receiver in the first round, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong about that, but you never see somebody come in and make an immediate impact if they were taken that late in the draft. And that late, I mean, it's the middle of the round. But who'd they take? They did take a receiver in the first round. I knew as soon as I said it, I was wrong. I knew as soon as I said it, they took Tommy Mason of Tulane. He played at Tulane, he's going to be garbage. But no, this is how the Lions are going to win 10 plus games here in the NFL season. And, you know, if I'm lying, I'm dying. You know, go ahead and comment down below. This is going to be just like the last video, all right? Still looking for the right kind of editing software. A lot of it is not free, if you've noticed. So it's going to be unedited, unfiltered, so that's cool. I'm not going to swear, though, even though I could. So the first game against the Detroit Lions, for the Detroit Lions, it's at home. Okay? Ford Field, not known for its home field advantage. Now, there is something I need to address here. This is the first game of the season. This is September 13th. And Detroit is one of the cities that got hit harder than most in, like, the world as far as the coronavirus is concerned. Like, Michigan's high numbers for the coronavirus, and I don't want to talk too much about it, but it's a real thing. It's out there in the world. Michigan's coronavirus numbers are high because of Detroit. And Ford Field is in downtown Detroit. So it's going to be interesting to see if the Lions keep that first game of the week. I think the schedule makers were just like, oh, you know, it's going to probably be blown over by then, which hopefully, right? But it is going to be in Detroit. It's against Chicago. If you don't get better, you get worse. And I think a lot of teams in the NFC North didn't get better. Okay? And I think the Lions did. I think the Lions had the best draft in the NFC North. And I think that's undisputed. I think the Vikings probably had the second best draft. I don't see why they can't start out with a win. Like, what is Chicago bringing to the table that's so intimidating for the Detroit Lions? Oh, yeah, Khalil Mack. Really? Because Khalil Mack 2 years ago, for sure. Khalil Mack 3 years ago, when the guy who got the big contract with Chicago, 100%. Khalil Mack last year? That changes the narrative a little bit. This is in Detroit. This is the first game of the year. This is the game, and you have Matt Patricia. The jury's obviously still out on him. 7 wins in 2 years. And a tie. 7 wins in 2 years and a tie. But he's getting a full year. He's getting a full year to prep for this specific game. There's going to be a little rust on both teams. So I think the team that runs the ball better, which you'd argue is the Bears, Lions are going to be very good running the football. Kerryon Johnson's coming back healthy. They just drafted Swift in the second round. He's a good running back. He was taken 33rd overall. Or 34th, something like that. I like the Lions in this game. That's one win right there. Chalk it up. Lions do go to Lambeau Field the next week. So that's not a win. I'm gonna be honest. I don't think the Packers are gonna be as good though. I'm gonna tell you why, because the Lions play the Packers twice. You play every team in your division twice, and then you play, I think, 3 other divisions in the NFL. So you play every team in your division twice, and I think the Lions play the AFC South, which that's gonna be hit or miss. And then they play the NFC South, and I think they play another division as well. Maybe not. Maybe it's only 2 divisions plus your own division twice. So I'm gonna talk about the Packers a little bit more during the second game. Lions start 1-1. Then it's Arizona. The Lions should have won. The Lions should have beaten the Arizona Cardinals last year. The Cardinals snuck one in, and the reason for that was because it was Kyle Murray. Now you look back, take a look at all the young quarterbacks in the NFL. One of 2 things happened. They started immediately, had some spark, had some fire, and then kind of regressed. And then either built themselves back up, or they just fell off completely. Right? Or they sat behind somebody, and then they got good. You look at Patrick Mahomes, sat behind somebody. Right? You look at Josh Allen. I believe he sat behind somebody. They might have just thrown him into the fire. But Lamar Jackson now, because someone's going to say it, Lamar Jackson, he's started right away, but if you think about it, he did sit behind Joe Flacco for a little bit, and then he got a chance to play, right? So Kyle Murray came out the gate, he was hot, he was good. Now teams have film on Kyle Murray. Now there's a little more pressure for Kyle Murray. Now it's not, oh, you're a rookie, worst team in the league, go out and have fun. Now it's like, okay, can you do what you did last year and improve? I don't see it happening. I think a sophomore slump's going to hit Kyler Murray, and I think a sophomore slump combined with the fact that running the football travels, and the Lions are going to be good on the ground. The Lions, bold predictions 2020, the Lions will be a top 5 in rushing yards team this season. Not so bold predictions. They have 2 phenomenal running backs. I like the Lions going to Arizona. Here's the thing, too. It's a 4 o'clock game. When you play teams on the West Coast, that's a huge problem because the 1 o'clock games on the West Coast are at 10 o'clock in the morning. That's terrible. Most people haven't gotten their cup of coffee yet, all right? But this is a 4 o'clock game. This is going to be at 1:25. This isn't even going to throw off the Lions' sleep schedules at all. I like the Lions in this game. I think the running game travels, and they'll start out 2-1. Now, they host the Saints after that. I think the Niners are going to regress. I said this in my prediction, or I said this in the Power Rankings video. The team that loses the Super Bowl almost never makes the playoffs following year. Patriots did. Patriots won the Super Bowl. That's like one of the last teams that did. That was a couple years ago too. But most teams, you look at the Falcons. I don't even think the Falcons have made the playoffs since they blew a 28-3 lead. The Eagles, I don't think, made the playoffs the year after they won the Super Bowl. The Rams didn't make the playoffs last year. It's just time and time again. And the reason I'm bringing up the Niners now is because I think the Saints are going to be the best team in the NFC. I think the Buccaneers, especially at this point in the season, this is the first week of October. I think the Buccaneers are still going to be working some kinks out. I don't see how Seattle got, necessarily speaking, that much better. And Minnesota lost Stephon Diggs. I think those are going to be the teams at the top of the conference. I think the Eagles are going to be interesting to watch. I don't know what the Jalen Hurts draft pick was all about. But I think the Eagles are going to be an interesting team to watch, too, as far as top of the conference. But I think the Saints will be the best team in the NFC this year. I think they're going to crush the Lions. I don't think that's going to be close. Just to be honest. And then Jacksonville. Okay, this is like an obvious one, right? Like, Jacksonville's a mess. I can honestly do a video, like an entire video, about how the Jacksonville Jaguars went from, like, Maurice Jones-Drew, David Garrard, a solid defense, Jack Del Rio, consistently making the playoffs. Every single year they were in the discussion. You know, the only real problem they had, they couldn't beat the Colts, they couldn't beat the Patriots, which, surprise, surprise, not a lot of teams in the AFC could beat the Colts or the Patriots at the time. They went from that to making the playoffs once in 10 years. That's when they were Saxonville, like 3 years ago, and they were phenomenal, and Blake Bortles was playing like an MVP caliber, and I don't know where that went. That's not that team, though. This is not Saxonville anymore. They lost both of their corners. Like, they're terrible now, the Jaguars. I like the Lions to crush the Jaguars to get their 3rd win on the year. Then you have the Falcons. I did a little research before. Matt Ryan is 34 years old. That's not like young. All right, for a quarterback, that's not old, but that's not young. He's not one of the young guys. He's a veteran. There's guys coming into the league 21, 20 years old. He'll be 14, 13 years younger than him. He got their driver's license before they were out of their diapers. You know what I mean? Like, he's getting old. He's getting up there in age. Julio Jones is still good, obviously. The Lions, that's going to be a spot where they were missing Darius Slay. Like I said when I was talking about Stephon Diggs and the Vikings, you can't replace a all-pro talent with the NFL draft. That's like not how it works. I think that's going to be a huge spot where the Lions miss Darius Slay. It's in Atlanta, the Georgia Dome. It's a hard place to win. I like the Falcons in this game. That is 3 losses already. This is going to be interesting. They have 3 losses. We can only afford 6. But it gets easier. It gets easier down the stretch. Because the Lions host the Colts the year after. And if we want to talk about old, we just got to talking about Matthew Ryan I almost said Stafford, being old. Phillip Rivers is 4 years older than him. Phillip Rivers could be some of the guys he's playing with's father. He's 38 years old. He's 38. The thing that the Colts had last year was really good, but do you remember when it was very good? Right? Because if you had a good half of the year, you want it to be the second half. You want to be Tennessee, who couldn't be consistent at all. They'd blow out the Texans and then lose to the Jaguars in back-to-back weeks the first half of the season, and then they won like 7 straight games to end the season. That's what you want. You don't want to be the Colts, who were the best team in the division, like 6-2, and then you finish 7-9. Like it was atrocious. They got Phillip Rivers. They are going to be better, but it's in Detroit. It's in Detroit, and the Colts are not going to be good at stopping the run. I'm not saying the Lions are going to blow these teams out 35-0. I'm saying that Matthew Stafford, coming off play action, they have a decent enough receiving core with some young talent that's building. Kenny Golladay is still in there. Marvin Jones Jr. is not going anywhere, hopefully anytime soon. They have a 1-2 punch at running back. This is a win for the Detroit Lions. Then they play the Vikings. I'm looking at this schedule for the Lions. This could be the last loss for the Lions in a while. It's in Minnesota. Vikings might be one of the best teams in their conference. Kirk Cousins has gotten better. I think he's getting better. I actually do think he's progressing forward. Run game travels. It's going to be closer than people think. But I think the Lions, at the midway point of the season, because that's where we're at right now, will be 4-4. And no one's going to be ready for their 6-2 finish. I said it backwards. Their 6-2 finish. Look at the second half of the Lions' schedule. It's so much more winnable. The games that are tough are at home. The games that are easier are on the road. It's 100%. The only time that's not the case is where they play the Washington a week before Thanksgiving. I don't know how we couldn't get Washington on Thanksgiving, but they play Washington a week before Thanksgiving at home. I'm not even talking about this. Lions are 5-4. Then they play the Panthers. Oh, okay, they got Teddy Bridgewater. Like I don't know what you want. Like, who do you think Teddy Bridgewater is? Like, there was a reason he was the backup in New Orleans. He's good. Don't get me wrong. If he could have stayed healthy, would have been top 15 for sure. I don't think that he's better than Stafford. Or let me say this. You can make a case he's better than Stafford. I wouldn't take him over Matthew Stafford. A healthy Matthew Stafford. And Teddy Bridgewater's had the same exact, if not worse, health problems than Matthew Stafford. A healthy Matthew Stafford, I take over Teddy Bridgewater. And oh, by the way, Carolina lost their best player, quarterback, undisputed leader at linebacker in Luke Kuechly. Remember what happened to the Bears? You might be too young to know this, kids, but do you remember what happened to the Bears when they lost Brian Urlacher? They went from a top 5 defense to a bottom 5 defense. Lions are going to be a top 5 running team. Running game travels. Lions are 6-4. Then we host Houston. 2 things. Because you might be going, oh, Houston, there's no way he spins the Lions beating Houston. 2 things. 3 things. Actually, it's like a 2-part. First one's a 2-part. 1, Deshaun Watson. Right? And that's a 2-parter. Because 1, we don't even know if he's still going to be on the Texans at this point. What if the Texans start out 0-3 and Deshaun Watson, because the quarterback position, more than any other position in all sports, is a mental test. If you're not here, you're not here. This is me throwing the football. I could have been a quarterback in the NFL. Anyway, I'm too short. At least in the XFL. Anyway, I'm sorry, I got him on a tangent. I don't think he's going to have it here. I don't think he likes the coach he's playing for. I don't think he likes the fact that his number 1 target is Brandon Cooks. Probably. He probably wouldn't be playing at this point because he gets hurt all the time. This isn't the first week of the season. This isn't the Houston Texans now. This is the Houston Texans in the middle of November. They're going to have a hurt Brandon Cooks. They're not going to have a running game. They're going to be completely disheveled. They're going to be like 4-9. They're going to have a worse record than the Lions. The Lions they have 6-4. I could see the Texans being like 5-5 right now. And that's 100% real. Or worse. And number 2, remember, 3, basically. Because remember, 2 things. Deshaun Watson, he may have asked for a trade at this point. He may have, trade me. I don't want to play. I don't want to play for them anymore. I don't want to play for this team anymore. It's garbage. I don't like that I'm getting slandered by the media. I'm asking for a trade. That doesn't happen a lot in the NFL because the NFL is more of a team sport, not like much of a player sport like the NBA is. That's just how the NBA has been, what's the word I'm looking for? Placed in the media. That's not the word, but that's what I meant. And, the NFL is like, oh, we're the team, team sports. So we don't see players demanding a trade very often, but I could see it. And there's a lot of teams that need a quarterback. So keep an eye on Deshaun Watson. He's in Detroit on Thanksgiving Day. The Lions play better on Thanksgiving Day. They're just coming off of a win over Washington and a win over Carolina. 2 wins in a row. Lions are 7-4. Lions would be 7-4 by this point. Then we go to Chicago. Now, this one's spicy because the Lions, if I'm looking at this schedule correctly, I don't necessarily think, I guess I could see it actually, them losing to Chicago and still going 10-6. Here's the thing again, though. Running game travels. They're like, oh, the Bears have a good defense. They got Khalil Mack. Who's Khalil Mack? Okay, yeah, Khalil Mack 2 years ago, 100%. Oakland Raiders, Khalil Mack? Get out of here now. I don't want to deal with that. Last year's Khalil Mack? Inconsistent Khalil Mack? Always gets double teamed and can't break a Khalil Mack? And there's no indication. Name the last time in the comment section down below that a linebacker was very, very good for a long period of time, slightly regressed, and then got better. You can't think of it because it doesn't happen. Like any other position, maybe the quarterback position, kicker, punter. Football is a tough sport. You don't get better by playing it more. That's not how it happens. There are players who obviously get better as time progresses onward, but it's not Khalil Mack at year 7 or however many years. I'm not looking that up in the league. And if that's the only guy I got to be afraid of, they didn't assess their quarterback problem. The Bears didn't assess their quarterback situation. They have Nick Foles. He might not even be healthy by then. And if he is healthy, he's not going to be Mitch Trubisky, Tyler Bray. I thought they got rid of Mitch Trubisky. Anyway, Tyler Bray, who is that? I don't know who that is. And Nick Foles. The Bears quarterback might be Cam Newton by this point, actually. So that'll be interesting. That might make me change my pick. But even if it is, I like the Lions in this game. I've said it 32 times in this video. The running game travels. This is going to be December 6th. It's going to be a running game matchup. Oh, the Bears can run the football well. Yeah, the Bears can run the football well. But Matthew Stafford's a top 10 quarterback off of play action with an established running game. And you cannot tell me, I think you can make a case that a couple of the wins I gave the Lions might have been wrong. You can make a case that Marvin Jones Jr. might regress. You can make a case that the Lions secondary won't be as good as they were last year because they lost Darius Slay, even though they immediately assessed that position in the NFL draft as we're at the 20-minute mark. You cannot make the case, if they are healthy, that Kerryon Johnson and DeAndre Swift will not be a phenomenal 1-2 punch. You cannot make that case. I do not think there's an argument for that. I like the Lions to win this game. That is a 4-game winning streak after going 4-4. Now the Lions are 8-4. They're looking at the playoffs, and they host the Packers. Like I said, I was saving this, remember, because they went to Lambeau Field. Lions don't win in Lambeau Field. The Lions were starting the Packers were starting Matt Flynn, and the Lions had one of their best teams they had in a while, and they still lost. So it's like, they don't win in Lambeau Field. But this ain't in Lambeau Field, not round 2. Remember what I was talking about when I was talking about Deshaun Watson? As I wipe spit off the table. It's all about up here. Aaron Rodgers really probably didn't like, I don't know, because I don't know the guy. He's not like there, and we were just talking about it. He probably didn't like getting, watching a quarterback be drafted. And then they didn't draft a receiver. Like, what is going on? Why do people think you don't magically get better? That's not how, the world works. You don't just, do and get better. That's not how it works. The Packers and the Bears got worse, not because they got rid of their entire team, not because they fired their head coach and they fired their O-line and they fired their janitor. No, they got worse because they didn't get any better. This is in Detroit. The Lions are going to be on a 4-game winning streak. This is going to be like a primetime watch this game. And the Packers are going to be fighting for a playoff spot, and the Lions are going to be fighting for the exact same playoff spot. I think the Vikings are going to be very good. They're going to be starting to pull away from the top spot, and the Lions and Packers are going to be battling probably with the Cowboys, probably with Seattle, Seattle's probably going to win that division. Probably with Los Angeles, the Rams. Probably with Tampa. Definitely with Tampa. I think Tampa's probably going to be what last year's Buffalo was. Like, they're just going to convincingly get that second spot. If they don't, the Saints will. It looks like Seattle was last year, too. So it's going to be battling for that top spot, that 6th seed, and it's going to be in Detroit. They're going to rally. Detroit has such a... When there's hope... Because the Lions fans don't need a lot of hope, as this video proves, to be hopeful. Lions fans don't need the Lions to win 13 games to have hope for the next season. Like, Patriots fans do. Or they used to. Right? Patriots fans are in for a rude awakening. Yeah, that's how losing feels, Patriots fans. Anyway, Lions fans don't need a lot of hope. You're telling me after 4 wins in a row, they just came from Chicago. They just put a whooping on Chicago. They ran 200 yards. Both running backs had 100+ yards. They come into Green Bay in Ford Field. You're telling me they don't go berserk. This is actually going to be, this is a blowout. Second bold prediction, Lions win 12-13. They win in a blowout over the Green Bay Packers. That's wild. If that's right, I swear. Anyway, Tennessee. This is win number 10. This is it. We did it. This is it. We figured it out. This is it right here. This is it. All right, we're going to go for it again. Look at this. Okay. Home against Chicago, at Arizona, at Jacksonville, at Atlanta, home against Indianapolis, home against Washington, at Carolina, home against Houston, at Chicago, home against Green Bay. Oh, is that already 10? I must have gave them one. 1 second. There was one I wasn't sure that I gave away. I think I had them losing to Atlanta. Yeah, I had them losing to Atlanta. Okay, I mistake that. We'll say it one more time. Home against Green Bay, at Chicago, home against Houston, at Carolina, home against Washington, home against Indianapolis, at Jacksonville, at Arizona, home against Chicago. They play the Titans. Do you know how this works? Anybody that has watched the NFL for more than 2 years knows that teams that make some random surprise run to the playoffs and in the playoffs at the end of the year are straight garbage the year after. What is it about the Tennessee Titans that makes you think that what they did last year is going to progress into this year? nothing. There is nothing. Absolutely nothing. Why would Derrick Henry get better? Why would Ryan Tannehill get better? Why would their receiving core get better? There is nothing that makes me think, oh, Tennessee's they're going to be a top 10 team. They're going to be winning multiple games this year. They're going to definitely be. No, Derrick Henry's going to get worse. You don't name the last time, Marshawn Lynch probably, and look where Marshawn Lynch is at now. Name the last time you saw a running back get beat up constantly and not get paid, remind you. He's not gotten like a big deal, like a big contract. Okay, if you look at the top paid running backs, as I Google this right now, in the NFL. You look at the top paid running backs in the NFL. Ezekiel Elliott's number one. This is just top 6. Ezekiel Elliott, Le'Veon Bell, David Johnson, Derrick Henry, okay, right there. Kenyon Jake, and Melvin Gordon. But that's what I'm saying, though, still. Why isn't he number one? Why is he making less money than Le'Veon Bell and David Johnson? And then Ryan Tannehill, if you think for 1 second that Ryan Tannehill, if you've watched Ryan Tannehill for more than a year, there was a reason, I said this when I was talking about Nick Foles, there was a reason he was the backup. Now he got the starting spot. He was one of the greatest happy-go-lucky stories of the end of the year. And I'm not trying to make this just about how bad these other teams are and, oh, you're not even talking about the Lions. I already talked about the Lions. So I'm not going to talk about the Lions every single week. I'm going to talk about how they're going to beat the teams that they're going to beat, right? We already established this. Matthew Stafford's a top 15 quarterback, top 10 quarterback off the play action. They're going to have a top 5 running game. Book it. You can put a bet down on Vegas. You're going to win millions of dollars. I'm not going to, though. They assess their position on the defensive end. They got a defensive lineman. They got a couple of defensive linemen. This is Matt Patricia's 3rd year. He has to make results happen. He has to. You don't think he's going to figure it out? He's going to figure it out. The Lions are 10-6. Lions 10-6 won the last 6 games. 10-4. I don't know what I'm doing. 10-4 won the last 6 games. And they host the Buccaneers. Oh boy. Oh boy. I'm not gonna lie. These last 2 games here for the Lions, because it's home against Tampa, home against Minnesota. And remember what I said? I said that the tough games for the Lions, they host them. They host the Saints. They host the Texans, who I don't think actually will be that good this year. They host the Packers. I mean, they have to, but they host the Buccaneers. They host the Vikings. Once again, they have to. And the games that are on the road, Falcons, Jags, Cardinals, Tennessee, Carolina. It's like, they're not very good. The only way the Lions win this game is if the Buccaneers experiment with Tom Brady didn't work. So the Lions could go 11-5. It could go 12-4, to be honest. Because the last game of the year is against the Vikings. And this could be a point where the Vikings, like especially if the Lions just lost, are like 13-3 and they don't play their starters and the Lions sneak a win. So they could go 11-5 after a loss. Because I don't think the Buccaneers thing is not going to work with Tom Brady. Just be honest. Because Tom Brady could be a game manager and they'll still be amazing. Because that's all they needed. Like they almost made the playoffs and their quarterback threw the most interceptions in the entire league last year. Like it's absurd. Like what they need a quarterback to be good. It would take a lot for that not to work. But if it doesn't, 11th win for the Lions, and then against the Vikings, it's at home. It's, that could be good. I think the Vikings are going to be very good this year. But that's it. So there you have it. So just to recap one more time. Home against the Bears will be a win. Road against Arizona and the Cardinals would be a win. Road against Jacksonville will be a win. Home against Indianapolis will be a win, right? And then after their loss to the Vikings the week later, the Lions will be 4-4, and something's got to give. There's going to be things typing in the press. If the Lions don't do well this year, should they fire Matt Patricia? That's my typing hands. That's going to be the talk of the town. Matt Patricia's going to figure it out. Lions go on a 6-game winning streak, beating Washington at home, Carolina on the road, Houston at home, Chicago on the road, Green Bay, that's going to be a big one, Green Bay at home, and then Tennessee on the road. Unless the Buccaneers experiment didn't work, that's probably a loss to the Buccaneers. And unless the Vikings are sitting their starters, that's actually a loss to the Vikings. But that's how the Lions go 10-6. Do you agree? Do you not? Subscribe, like, 30 minutes. I'm out.